Here we go.
All set?
All set.
All right. Well, good afternoon or evening, depending where you are, and welcome to the Inspire Africa annual fundraising event. We're so glad that you've joined us as we continue to support the ongoing needs of people related to the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda. My name is Joy Renneker, and I'm one of the board members for Inspire Africa, along with Diane Altweiser, Jay Cowie, and our leader and co-founder, Margaret McQuiston. We had hoped to do an in-person event this year, but out of an abundance of caution for health, and also the opportunity we had to have a special guest join us remotely, we determined that Zoom was our best option. I hope you are comfortable and have a beverage and snacks available where you are watching. First, let me outline what to expect over the next hour, and also go over a few logistics to make your Zoom experience the best it can be. We will introduce our guest speaker, Sam, to you, and then we'll turn it over to Sam to spend about half an hour on his presentation. Margaret will then facilitate a question and answer session and wrap up our event. Now, just a few Zoom logistics. We should all be used to this by now, but our Zoom moderator will be Margaret, and she will be initiating the screen sharing for the presentation slides. She's going to mute all of us while the presentation is occurring. So if you have a comment or question, please type it into the chat, which Diane will be monitoring throughout the hour. We will do our best to address questions once the presentation is finished. You can customize your own Zoom view, but it would be best if you use speaker view so that whoever is speaking is featured on your screen. You can find speaker view on your Zoom settings. You're welcome to leave your own video setting on during the entire meeting so that we can see each other and be as interactive as possible. If you have any trouble with Zoom, please type into the chat and we will do our best to help. This session is being recorded and will be available on our website when it's completed. Thank you so much for participating with us today. Just a reminder that you can donate in various ways at any time during or after the meeting by going to the Inspire Africa website and using the method that is most convenient for you. The link to the website will be included in the chat. Thank you so much for your support. And now I'll turn it over to introduce our speaker for today.
Sorry, I forgot to unmute there.
Hit that.
Good afternoon or evening. It is my honor and great pleasure to introduce Sam Undereri, the Chief Executive of Survivors Fund. Survivors Fund, or SURF, is a community development organization providing support since 1995 to survivors of the genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda. It is the primary organization that Inspire Africa works with in Rwanda, and we have supported SURF right from the beginning. Sam is passionate about international development work and improving the lives of vulnerable people. He has a profound understanding of the issues faced by survivors and their families in Rwanda, an extensive experience of programs that seek to empower them and then transform their lives. Those of you who have been, who have been to Rwanda with Inspire Africa have probably met Sam. He has been a wonderful host to us. He tells us where the need is, proudly shows us where your donations are going, and explains how you are making a difference in the lives of survivors. Because Sam is close to what is going on to Rwanda and with the survivors of the genocide, SURF is able to consider their evolving needs and adapt and effectively respond to those needs. On our last trip to Rwanda in 2018, Sam showed our group of volunteers how Inspire Africa is making a difference in the lives of survivors. He took us to a medical center that Inspire Africa helped fund, to the home of a young lady who used the helpline to get her property back, to a youth vocational training class, the businesses of young survivors who received entrepreneurship loans, and to homes that have been repaired with Inspire Africa funding. At all of these places, we could see how Sam's leadership has created positive outcomes for so many survivors and given them hope for the future. Sam has a wealth of information, and we thoroughly enjoyed listening to his stories about survivors and how SURF is able to meet their needs. Sam grew up in Uganda as his family fled Rwanda in the early 70s during one of the earlier conflicts. He told us about when he first came to Rwanda in 2004 to work for Survivors Fund. Working so closely with genocide survivors took a huge emotional toll. He was so affected by the stories he heard and the people he met that he decided to resign. 3 weeks later, his mother convinced him to return to his job. Sam had always wanted to be a humanitarian worker, and his mother told him that he could not do what he enjoyed doing in life, yet run away from it. When he returned to work, SURF provided psychological support to help him to deal with the pressure of the job and to improve his well-being. 17 years later, he is the chief executive of Survivors Fund. Sam holds a master's degree in international development management from the University of Westminster in London, a bachelor's degree in social work and social administration from Ugima University in Uganda. He lives with his wife and 2 children in Kigali. However, he is currently in London, England, studying for a Master's of Science in Global Health at King's College London and the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine. Just a reminder that we recommend you use the view button, and if you want to see both the slide and Sam, you can use the side-by-side speaker option in the Zoom. London is 7 hours ahead of us, so we greatly appreciate Sam speaking to us at this late hour. Without further ado, here is Sam Wanderere.
Thank you so much for your kind introduction, and thank you everyone for giving us time to talk about what we all care about so passionately. It's a great honor for me to be joining all of you this evening, and for the first time. My initial wish was to be in person, but I am very glad that technology has allowed us to do it remotely, and that I can meet and speak to all of you this evening or afternoon, again, depending where you are. I will ask Margaret to help with sharing the slides, if that's okay. Thank you very much. Thank you, Margaret. I always love to start such discussions with quotes, and I found these 2 quotes for us to start with. I'll go with the first one that says, "No person was ever honored for what he received. He was honored for what he gave." And the second one, "True generosity doesn't start when you have something to give, but rather when there's nothing in you that is trying to take." I am very sure that many of you believe and have heard several times that it is more rewarding to give than to receive. And I think that we are all here at this time because we want to touch someone else's life in a very special way. And I'm very glad that Inspire and all of you are here today because of this cause of giving a life to someone else. We will look at some of the projects of the work that Inspire is supporting in Rwanda, which is reflected on the next slide. First and foremost, I am pleased to talk about the Legal and Counseling Helpline. The Legal and Counseling Helpline was started in 2013 as a pilot project, but as it has turned out to be, it has turned out to support and to be a source of strength for so many youth, genocide survivors, and second-generation survivors. The Legal and Counseling Helpline that has been supported or is being supported by Inspire is helping youth whose properties were registered and taken by relatives of young survivors who were very young after the genocide and could not be able to get the rightful ownership of the property that belonged to their parents, and the guardians or the caregivers who registered the property under their names after the young people became of age to own the properties were not willing to pass it on to them in the right way. And so many of you have to take legal action and seek legal support, of which many do not have the means to get money to pay lawyers and make trips to government offices or to courts of law, and the process which many may not be aware of. And so this Legal and Counseling Helpline has been very instrumental and is very instrumental in providing legal advice, legal education, as well as representing survivors who have legal issues in courts of law. And since starting in 2013, the helpline has supported over 1,000 youth and has helped many of them to regain their property back, which is estimated at $950,000 US. And considering the amount of money that Inspire has donated to follow up these cases, over $950,000 is a large amount of money or a large value of what has been regained. And so the Legal and Counseling Helpline is really important. And as you know, people with legal issues normally have emotional, psychological issues because of the legal issues they are going through. And so the helpline combines supporting with legal issues as well as supporting the emotional and psychological well-being of those going through these legal issues that they face. And the other work, which is very instrumental at this time, is related to providing support for skills and vocational training. As many youth do not have opportunities to attend university and get a university degree for several reasons, those who have received skills and vocational training stand even better chances of getting into employment because they have hands-on skills to apply. In fact, as the economy of Rwanda is growing and the construction industry growing and the tourism industry is expanding, as many of you may be reading in the news about Rwanda's tourism growth, young people with hands-on skills such as culinary arts, catering, tailoring, construction, stand better chances of getting an employment and in turn an income. And so the support from Inspire Africa is playing a very, very important role in ensuring that the young people or the youth survivors or youth from survivors' households got a chance of acquiring these skills, which in turn helps them to secure employment and income. Similarly, the youth entrepreneurship work, which is an important part of solving the issues of unemployment and helping in job creation, is also part of what the support from Inspire Africa is doing, is that we offer training in entrepreneurship and facilitate young people who have gone through the youth entrepreneurship trainings to access loans to start small businesses. With this, we work with microfinance institutions that we have agreements with and who have presence in several parts of the country where the youth live, and they help in facilitating as well as educating and supporting the young people on how to use loans, and as well as helping in following up their businesses and providing advice. This is very important, especially as we will see that youth unemployment is now one of the biggest issues that the country is facing. The other work that we have been able to implement with the support of Inspire Africa is related to shelter. Especially now, 28 years on, many of the houses that were built for survivors were built in a state of emergency. And 28 years on, there is need to renovate many of these houses and even to build new ones for those whose houses have completely been destroyed by either the rains or the fact that they were built in an emergency state and now are falling apart. And so Inspire Africa has been very instrumental in providing support towards giving a shelter to survivors. Together with this Inspire, we have also been able to provide solar lights. And this is very important, again, in a number of ways. First, it helps to provide a light for those survivors in very remote places where they don't have electricity, but it also contributes to saving in these households because they no longer have to spend money buying candles or kerosene to light up their homes. They get a light and save on what they would use on buying candles and kerosene to light their homes. At the same time, it helps especially those young people from households with elderly people to reduce the smoke. Many of the elderly people have difficulty lighting up candles that bring a lot of smoke. And so the solar lights really are very handy in this way. And at the same time, the solar lights that we give out with your support have a small port where the users can charge their telephones, and sometimes have a radio where they can tune in and listen to the news when the light is fully and well charged. So the lights play a role more than providing light, but also helping the people to connect to the world through listening to the radio and charging their telephones. 2 years ago, as we all know, COVID hit, and most of the young people here in Rwanda, and not just the young people, but almost everyone was hit because businesses closed. And as we know that many of the survivors depend on doing odd jobs that earn them an income on a daily basis. They earn an income when they have worked. Inspire played a very important role in ensuring that they support households with relief support to be able to put food on their table and meet the basic needs. So this was timely support for those households that were most hit by COVID and the lockdown. Next, we will look at, we'll go to the next slide. Okay, yeah, I'll go on to look at some of the challenges or the issues that are affecting survivors and why it is particularly important 28 years on for us to advocate for and keep genocide survivors on the agenda. One of the issues that are now at present are related to mental health challenges. In fact, the Ministry of Rwanda, the Ministry of Health in Rwanda, conducted a survey in 2018, and that survey showed that 35% of genocide survivors have mental health issues. And this was, again, a demonstration that time does not heal mental health concerns for many of the survivors. As we are seeing, as genocide is becoming more distant, mental health challenges are becoming more prevalent other than going away. That's why I say that time does not seem to heal some of these emotional and psychological wounds. And this is related to the fact that as the genocide becomes more distant, the stressors of life also keep changing. As many of the people who have challenges to do with HIV, for example, many survivors, as we know, that during the genocide, many were infected with HIV as a way or a weapon of destruction, and those who were born after, as a result of these conflicts, some of them were born with HIV disease. And so the stresses of life resulting from the effects of HIV, stresses of life resulting from poverty and unemployment, all contribute to making the mental well-being of survivors more challenging than it has been in the past. There is also the issue of youth unemployment. Although this is a general problem in the country, we say that it hits youth from survivors' households even harder. Youth survivors are hit harder because many of them, after completing university, the small allowance they were getting from the government or their sponsors stops, and they have to find a home to live. And with many of them, their relatives being killed during the genocide, they have no place to fall back on, no relatives to count on while they are looking for a job, or to count on for making the important networks and connections and providing resources that they may need to start their small businesses. And so we find that survivors are hit harder than the other population that is not of survivors because of the history that is connected with their families being destroyed during the genocide. And so the issue of unemployment hits them harder. The other challenge, again, is related to the houses or the shelter issues that I mentioned earlier on, where many of the houses were built just after the genocide or the years following the genocide in an emergency state, and 28 years on, many of the houses are falling apart. And so there is now greater need for rebuilding houses, for providing accommodation to those who need it. The need is becoming greater each year, which is, one would think that so many years after the genocide, the needs are going away, but some needs are actually becoming fresh as the time goes on because of the issues we are seeing at hand, like houses falling because of the time they were constructed in, and also that they are getting old with time. So the needs of survivors, again, keep changing because of these different factors. There is also the need for continued legal support for the young people, or for the second generation survivors who have issues with property and other legal issues. In fact, the helpline, when we started, we were looking at dealing with property issues, but now a number of other issues come in, and the helpline has been very instrumental in helping these other issues that connect with it, issues such as domestic violence, conflicts among families. So the young survivors call with all sorts of legal needs, and we can't turn them away. So the helpline is playing a very important role in providing legal support for those who need property back or their rights, but at the same time dealing with other legal issues and providing legal education and guidance on how to get justice for those who need justice. So it's an important challenge that we are seeing that could even go on for a number of years, because, as I say, that the needs keep changing with time, and we are working to respond depending on how the needs keep changing. Yes, there is also the need for skills education. As I said, that the need for technical skills is greater now as Rwanda is developing. In fact, what we are seeing, that even those who attend university and have a university degree, that doesn't guarantee a job. Whereas those who have hands-on skills, to a greater extent, that grants that they can have a job, but also they have the skills they need to start something of their own, their small business, once they have access to finance or to small loans through our programs that we are gladly funded by Inspire. Our work is delivered through partnerships, and we are very glad that over the last many years since we have been working in Rwanda, we work with the local organizations of survivors groups who understand their needs better and who understand each other. And so on all these projects, we work with the Survivors Students Association and the Survivors Association of Graduated Students. So these are associations of youth survivors that are well established and well-rooted among the survivors. And so it becomes easier for us to deliver work in a more meaningful way that will provide lasting impact. And in fact, impact that is sustainable, because we are using the approach that involves the target group to deliver the work and ensure that what we are providing is what they really need, which is very important. And again, I know that many of you are involved, but I thought that I would share some of the ways that we can get involved. And yeah, one of it is advocacy, to highlight the challenges and rights of survivors. As I said earlier, that many people think 28 years on, survivors don't have any issues. They are living just like any other people in Rwanda. But as we have seen, that the needs of survivors keep changing, and some of them become even greater than they were just after the genocide. So there's a great need for us to continue advocating for survivors and highlighting the challenges that they face, and also, yeah, the right for them to have some of these very pressing needs met. It also show the difference we are making by sharing our resources, such as the updates from Inspire that we provide, and sharing work that we are doing, and the difference that we are making on your social media, and as well as making financial contributions, because all of this work that we must deliver, we need financial support to do so. And so your support is greatly needed in all of these ways that we have seen. And yeah, to come to an end, there is another quote that I find very interesting as we reflect. It goes, if you want happiness for an hour, take a nap. If you want happiness for a day, go fishing. If you want happiness for a year, inherit a fortune. If you want happiness for a lifetime, help someone. And I believe that there is fulfillment when we touch someone's life, when we help someone, especially those that we do not expect to get a reward from, or to get help back. Because in this world, many people want to do something for someone because they know they will be there for them when they need them. But in this work, we are touching lives without expecting them to be there for us at one time, but to support them to improve their lives. And it is a very important cause that we are all involved in. I thank you so much for your kind attention. And yeah, I want to say Murakoze Chan. Thank you very much for your attention. Murakoze.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Sam. I always learn so much every time I speak with you, so I really appreciate that. I do have a couple of questions that come to mind. And one is that I wanted to point out to everyone that the Survivors Fund was one of the few organizations that identified the needs of children that were born of rape. their mothers were raped, as Sam talked about, during the genocide as a weapon of war. And then these children were born after, and they're 27 years old now. And so Survivors Fund was one of the few organizations that identified that this was a group of people that were falling between the cracks because they were born after the genocide. They're not considered survivors, and they weren't entitled to the same benefits or programs. So Sam, could you talk a little bit about what the Survivors Fund has done to support not just the children born of rape, but also their mothers, and maybe some of the issues that are around that issue? Yeah, so you're muted. We need to unmute you. Hold on a second. Diane, can you unmute Sam? I can't figure out how to do it.
Yes, thank you.
Oh, there we go.
Yes, so yeah, during the genocide, it's estimated that more than 250,000 women were raped. And as a result, an estimated 20,000 children were born. These are figures provided by the UN through the people who visited their clinics just after the genocide. But yeah, this group of women face challenges related to, one, to disclosure, because many of them invited fathers for their children just after the genocide. It was easy to say, oh, your father was killed during the genocide. And yet to some, the weight of having this child, the emotional weight of having this child in their home was a big reminder of what they went through. And so many of the mothers had these emotional challenges, psychological challenges related to disclosure, but also related to living with a child who they call is a child of bad memory. And indeed, many of them confess that, you know, these children were marks of what happened to them during the genocide. And so in the late 2007, 2008, Survivors Fund started a program to bring the women together so that they can meet in a safe place and share their issues among themselves with the support of counselors and mental health professionals. So we developed a program that they attend for 6 months to get emotional support. At the same time, the young people then were not getting support through the government fund for survivors, because by definition, children born after the genocide are not considered as survivors, because survivors are those who were in Rwanda during that one. These kids were born after the war. And so they are not entitled to getting educational support, which survivors get. We try to advocate for this group that for different reasons, there was no way to include them amongst the support that survivors get. And so we developed an educational program to support them attend school, but now more importantly, help them get emotional and psychological support because of the issues of transmissional trauma that is passed to them from their mother. And now the young people also have these emotional challenges related to the way they were born, but also related to their identity, because we know that in many cultures in Africa, the children take the lineage of their father. And that's why many are referred to as children of the killers, because they take the lineage of their father. At the same time, as they become of age, 27, 26, 25, some of them are getting married. And they ask, who's going to sit in my father's position, you know? Who is going to give me away? Who are the relatives on my father's side? And if the mother has not disclosed before, then it brings a lot of questions. And so the support we are providing, and we have been providing, is to help the mothers to manage the disclosure process and also the importance of doing it. You remember, I think like 7 years ago, one of the young people whose mother had not disclosed to had it from the community, people saying, oh, your mother, we are your relatives. Did your mother tell you? And these are relatives of the perpetrator who is in prison. And the girl goes and tells the mother, where is my father? I understand you know where my father is because the people told me they're my relatives. And the mother was perplexed because she had never disclosed and she wasn't prepared to do it. So she got this girl on the bus and went down to Gisenyi, which is near Goma, the border with Congo. Moved to the border and told her daughter, your father must be in those forests across the border. If you want to know your father, go in those forests. I don't know who your father is, but he's among the killers and maybe he's there. And the girl was confused, couldn't cross to go in those forests or in the other part of the country. And they got on the bus and came back. And the mother said they were not talking all the way. This is a 2.5, 3 hours journey. And when they went home, the girl started crying and the mother started crying. So they both cried. And finally, the girl said, I'm sorry, I put too much pressure asking who my father is. But even though the mother didn't talk about it, but the girl automatically knew what the mother meant by taking her and pointing out where the father is. So these emotional challenges that many of them go through, that's just one of them, create, again, the need for the mental well-being of so many of these young people. And so we organize youth camps each year, 2 or 3 times a year, where we bring the young people together in groups of 30 in a retreat and for counselors to speak to them, but also for those with more strengths, or those who have been able to get the support and talk about their experience freely and overcome these challenges, come in and share their experience of how they have managed to overcome these challenges and the importance of, getting support. And for those who are not open to talk about it, talking about it. But we also are very careful how we do it, because not all of them have discussed this with their parents, and we don't want to be the ones telling them. So we identify those who have idea of how they were born, or with the permission of their mothers, for us to discuss these issues with them and provide help. So yeah, that's a part of the work that we are doing.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And it really demonstrates to us how you do such a great job in being attuned to the survivors and their needs and their evolving needs over time.
Yeah.
Because, as you said, it's been 28 years, and those needs do change as people become older. And yeah, there's one other thing that you I think when you were talking about the helpline, and you briefly mentioned about second generation survivors.
Yes.
And that's the first time that I've heard you talk about that. I know that we have a similar term that we use here. It's mostly referenced with the Indigenous people, intergenerational trauma.
Yes.
From our residential schools. So can you speak a little bit about the second generation survivors?
Yes,
And
sure.
what their challenges are?
Yes, sure. So the second generation survivors, these are the young people who are born after the genocide and born by genocide survivors. As I mentioned, that some of them, not necessarily that they were born because of the conflict, but even after maybe 3, 4, 5 years after the genocide, they have issues because of the history. Either it has been passed on to them through their parents, but also the history they study, the history they see, the effects of the genocide that they see. For example, as I said earlier, some of them asking who their grandparents are, and they're like, why can't we go to our grandparents during the holidays? Other kids at school talk about going to the village to visit grandparents during holidays, and why don't we go? And so as they learn the history, they also face these effects of not having that extended family to refer to, or family to get the support that they need and the interactions that they miss. And so, yeah, the second generation survivors are the young people born after the genocide. Mm-hmm. They also have their own challenges, as we said, related to the trauma that is passed to them through their parents and through the stories that they hear and the history that they see.
That's interesting. Thanks for explaining that. Now I have a question about the COVID situation in Rwanda. And can you talk to us a little bit about how things are now and what the vaccination status is in Rwanda, and then also, I guess, another thing is about the youth businesses that were started, prior to COVID, and obviously businesses had to shut down. And how did you respond to those students that you were working with, starting new businesses, and you had provided them with loans?
Yeah, thank you. So I start with the first one. When the COVID crisis started, Rwanda was among the first countries to implement the instructions to lock down. And so life became very hard immediately because the government was trying to stop the spread. And so the lockdown was implemented, and restrictions, I think, were stronger for Rwanda than any other countries on the African continent, which hit people more, but also which was a good thing because to control the spread of the virus. And so the government has been very instrumental in ensuring that people get vaccinated. I am not really up to date with the current figures, but what I know from last time is that more than 85% of the people, of the population that is supposed to be vaccinated was vaccinated. That was, I think, around May, the last time I checked. And so I believe that by now, the numbers of those in the population who are supposed to get the vaccine have got them, because the government has worked very hard to make sure that those who need the vaccine get it. And they made it very easy for everyone who needs it to get it. So yeah, I think the government, whereas the restrictions were very tough, but the response was really good, that the government was trying to protect and now making sure that people get the vaccine. Regarding the youth entrepreneurs who had received loans, as I said earlier, that we work with microfinance institutions to extend loans. So what we did then was to go to the microfinance institutions and help to stop the expecting the young people to repay the loans, because they were not working, and for many of them it meant that their businesses were not going to continue even after COVID, because of maybe not being able to pay rent, or because the little money they were saving or the capital they had, they were using it to survive and not go into very bad debts. And so we worked with the microfinance institutions now after COVID to revisit those whose businesses were able to survive. And we noticed that especially those who were in the food business were able to survive, and to extend support to those businesses that did not survive by providing equipment instead of money for those who, for example, were working, maybe selling clothes or shoes, or we say we are paying rent for you, not giving you the money, we are buying this stock, so they will tell us what they need to stock again their businesses. And so we work with these microfinance institutions to provide stock, to provide equipment, and not giving people cash. And we think that this is working. At least a few businesses are coming to life again. Of course, some of them failed because of those reasons, and we're not expecting to recover that money. But this model of working with the microfinance institutions that provide education and support during the process, we see it as one of the ways to help new businesses that are starting, but at the same time, those that survived the COVID period.
Thanks for that. That's obviously a very compassionate approach to those students. I see that your good friend Evelyn Goodall has her hand up.
Oh, nice.
Yes, so maybe Diane, if you could unmute Evelyn. She could ask her question.
Hello, it is lovely to see you, Sam,
Yes.
and lovely to hear you talk about my beloved Rwanda. I'm going to
Nice.
cry a little bit because
Oh.
I felt quite a homesick for Rwanda as I've heard you talk and talk about the projects that SURF has been involved in there. Truly, my trips to Rwanda, I think there were 4, Margaret, you have to tell me if that's right or not, have been amongst the most rewarding things that I've had the privilege of doing in my life. You talk about what you might do, and going to Rwanda on a trip with Margaret is one of the things that you can do to change your life and to change the life of people that you might meet. So thank you for being so honest with us. And I'm particularly, of course, touched by the story about the victims of rape and helping them to see that they are not guilty of the rape, that they are indeed children of God. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. I see there is another question from Marlene regarding whether SAF is, this through the message, whether SAF is involved in housing needs of elderly survivors who can no longer live independently. I would say to some extent, but not really much, because again, of the challenges related to fundraising for people in need of shelter, because that's one of the biggest areas that are really difficult to fundraise for. However, the government, through the Unity Club, which is a club of wives of politicians and business people, with the First Lady, they have taken this as support that they are extending, and they have set up a number of places where they work with the genocide survivors organizations to identify these people. And the Unity Club has been very helpful in making sure that they set up places where the elderly people go. Our part as Survivors Fund has been to provide trainings to the counselors who support in some of these places, because they have psychologists and mental health workers, and sometimes we invite them whenever we have trainings for counselors or psychologists for them to improve. And once in a year, we organize and visit these different homes and spend time with the elderly people. I think that we take gifts, clothes and drinks and a cake, and organize dancers for entertainment to provide the morale that the people need. But we are not doing much beyond that, as much as the government and Unity Club are doing. They are doing a great job.
Great, thank you. There is another question from Joey, and this is a lot of people understand the conflict years ago was between the Hutu and the Tutsi, and she's asking for for you to explain what is the relationship now.
I would say that at this time, the government has really worked very hard in bringing about unity and reconciliation. And so there are very good programs in schools, in communities. And in fact, some years ago, the government had started a program called Ndumu Nyarwanda, where everyone is identified as Rwandese and not by the tribe, to bring about unity and reconciliation. And as such, I can say that the Hutu and Tutsi live very well together. Of course, there are some who still have the ideology, the genocide ideology, post very bad messages and sometimes cause harm to survivors. But on the overall, I can say that the relationship is good.
Great, thank you. If anybody has any other questions, if you want to put them in the chat, I'm sure Sam would be happy to answer them. Sam, you know that we've talked about having, there's one from Evelyn, is the truth of the genocide taught in schools?
Yes, yes. The history of Rwanda is taught in schools, including the genocide, how it was prepared, how it was implemented.
Well, that's good to hear. As you know, one of the things that we're hoping to organize for this coming spring is a trip to Rwanda. We haven't been to Rwanda since 2018. Yeah, it's been a long time because we had planned to go in 2020, but that had to be canceled. Yeah, so we're hoping to have enough people interested to have another volunteer trip in the spring. So maybe tell us a little bit about Rwanda, what Rwanda is like.
Rwanda is a country of 1,000 hills. Actually, it could be more than that. Sometimes I think, because everywhere you look, there's a hill, so it's very hilly. And we have one of the gorilla species, I think, in Africa that I don't know which one it is, but people love Rwanda because of the gorillas. However, one shocking thing is that not many Rwandans have visited the gorillas, even before the prices went up. Maybe now people have excuse that the cost is high, but I remember personally, I didn't visit gorillas until 2016. And at that time, I think we were paying less than $30, so about $30 for Rwandans who wanted to visit. But what I discover after that is that not many people will, in Rwanda, go to visit the gorillas. Many people come from outside. Yeah. But now, if you have not been in Rwanda for 5 years, you will be surprised to see how much infrastructure has come up since you were last in Rwanda. Yeah, so it's infrastructure development is really moving quite fast.
Yes, well, I'm hoping to get there in the springtime. It would be wonderful. And another wonderful thing about the country is the people. The people there are so generous and so welcoming, and I really have missed my my Rwandan friends there. There's one last question here from Evelyn, and then we'll move on. Is what is your thinking about your government now?
Well, I think that again, we have a government that is focused on development and bringing people together. And I think that's why we have been able to achieve what we have been able to achieve as a country and as international development organizations, that the government provides a conducive environment for those who want to work, who want to provide support, that the environment that government creates is conducive and is really focused. I think that we are one of those governments now that are looked at as being exemplary in terms of accountability and promoting development in the region.
Well, thanks for that. That's really great, Sam. I really, if anybody has any, I don't see any other questions in the chat, but if anybody does have any questions in the future, don't hesitate to get in touch with us at Inspire Africa. We'd be happy to. I'm always happy to chat about Rwanda.
Yeah.
So Sam, we want to thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today, especially since it's so late for you.
That's okay. Yeah.
Yeah. You've certainly given us a much better appreciation of what is happening in Rwanda and how surf is making a huge difference in the lives of survivors. So we also want to thank you for being such a responsive and accountable partner with us. You and your team are doing amazing work, and we are so pleased to be a part of it with you for so many years now.
Thank you.
So I'm just going to give a few final remarks here. So Sam, if you feel free to log off if you want to head off to bed.
Yeah, I'm
we
okay staying.
will certainly understand that. Okay, great. So in closing, I just wanted to thank all of you for attending this afternoon, because it's you, our donors, who are making a difference, and you've made such a difference over many years. Since we had our very first fundraiser way back in 2007, I can't believe that it's been that long now. But during that, or since that time, we have raised over $1.2 million. So we're very, very proud of what we have accomplished with Sam, his team, as well as others in Rwanda to make life so much better for survivors of the Rwanda genocide. But we could not do that without you, our donors. You are the ones really that have made the difference. So as you know, last year we did not have an in-person or even an online fundraiser. Rather, we asked our past donors to contribute as they had in the past. And thanks to their generosity, we raised $48,000. So with that $48,000, we are incredibly grateful for that. And you've been able to see by what Sam has talked about that we've been able to make a meaningful difference. But unfortunately, what we raised last year was much less than what we had raised previous years. And that is why last year we were not able to support as many projects as we had previously. So to decide which projects we would support, we asked Sam to prioritize his program needs, which were 3 of the 6 critical areas that Sam talked about. So last year we funded the helpline for counseling and legal support. We supported the vocational skills training program. And then we provided COVID relief, mostly in the form of livestock that went to various families or widows. But we're hoping that this year, with your generosity, we will be able to support all 6 areas that Sam talked about. We know that times are difficult again this year, and that we certainly appreciate anything that you are able to donate to us. As you have heard through Sam, survivors' needs are still there, despite the genocide happening 28 years ago. So we have many ways to make it easy for you to donate. You can send us an old-fashioned check using old school methods, or you can send us an e-transfer. We are also set up on Canada Helps and PayPal Giving. And this year we have a new option that gives us a good return, and that is ATB Cares. They will match 20% of every dollar donated, up to a monthly total of $30,000 for all charities in Alberta. So if you try to use the ATB Cares and they say that their maximum has been met, you'll need to use one of the other methods. But it's worth giving it a try, because the return from that would be fantastic. We have information on our website about all these options, and information in there that will help you decide which option works best for you. And that's all on our website under the How You Can Help tab. And as always, an idea for holiday gifts is to make a donation in the name of somebody else. And if you choose to do this, we have gift cards for you that you can give to the recipient of your gift. So just let us know when you make your donation, and we will get a gift card to you. If you would also like to spread out your donation over the course of a year, we encourage you to consider monthly donations, and you can set that up through Canada Helps. And also, it's worthwhile checking with your workplace if they offer a charitable donation matching program, because that way you can double the impact of your donation. And as always, and something that we're very proud to say, we guarantee that 100% of the money that we raise as donations go directly to support survivors in Rwanda. We are a small volunteer-run organization, and any administrative costs that we have are taken care of by a separate source of funding. As I said, whatever you can afford to give, we are incredibly grateful. Just a couple of other things before we leave. As I mentioned, we are planning to, or hoping to go to Rwanda in the spring of 2023. Normally, we have gone to Rwanda every second year. And during those trips, we've been able to see the beauty of the country and the people, to meet the beneficiaries of the donations that we've received, and also to help some survivors improve their English skills. These trips are typically 2 weeks long. And if you are interested, please reach out to me either directly or through our website, and I can provide you with any information that you're looking for. Anyone who has been to Rwanda with us will say that it truly is a life-changing experience. You may have also heard that we have set up an African market again. The African market has some craft items from Rwanda, as well as some artwork and some beautiful African fabric. Photos and prices of all the items are available on our website and through our Facebook page. These are also great ideas for Christmas gifts. If you're not on our mailing list already, and if you would like to keep in touch with us, just let us know through sending us an email through our website, or you can just make a note in the chat there. And don't forget to send in your donations, and a special thanks to those who have already made their donations for this year. We really appreciate that. So thanks to everyone for attending today. We hope that you've learned something interesting about Rwanda and that you are inspired to make a difference. And thanks once again to Sam. We really appreciate not just working with you, but your agreement to come and to meet with us today. We sincerely appreciate that. So thanks everyone for your continued support, and we will be in touch. Have a good evening. Maybe we can just unmute everyone, Diane, in case anybody has something that they want to say. I'm not sure how to do that. There we go.
Did I do that? No, I didn't. I just unmuted myself.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
She's so cute.
Good to see you,
Nice to see
Annie.
you, Sam, thank you so much for coming tonight for us.
I just want to say hi to Sam. I met him this last summer. Hi, Sam. Good to see you again.
So for those who don't know, this is Christine. And she's been at many of our fundraisers. And if you don't know Christine, you may know her husband.
Jean-Claude.
Jean-Claude, yes. He was one of our speakers at our fundraiser years ago, and he's doing incredible work with his soccer program here in Calgary.
There you go. He's unmuted.
Thanks, Margaret. Bye-bye.
Well, thanks for coming,
Thank you.
Evelyn.
Thank you, Margaret. That was great. Thank you, Sam, as well. It's really informative.
Thank you so much. I'm happy I could make it.
Mhm.
Okay, I'm going to